Okay folks, just a quickie today. What we're going to do is go ahead and put a replacement CPU in this Dell Optiplex GX620. It's already got the latest BIOS on it, so I won't demonstrate that process. It's basically the same for any Dell machine, and I'm sure I've covered that in one of my videos on the Dimension 8400. These BTX Dells are very easy to work on, and changing stuff like the processor is it's about as easy as it gets, because the coolers are very easy to work with. So if you have a floppy drive installed, I suggest you disconnect it, move the cable out of the way, just take those SATA cables out of the retaining bracket there. Now, heatsink is held in place with two screws. One is down there, one is down the other side. You just slacken those off, and then the cooler will hinge backwards. Lifts off like so. Okay, next thing you want to do is clean the thermal paste off the CPU and cooler. I'm going to use a baby wipe and some alcohol. Okay, now that you've got that cleaned off, to go ahead and change the CPU, simply push down the retention lever, move it slightly to the side, out of the way, and then move back the retention bracket, and the CPU should just lift out. Okay, CPU that's going in is a Pentium D 945. I think that's an SL9QQ. I'll correct that when I edit the video if I'm mistaken. It's a little bit unclear on the lid of the CPU there. You need to observe those two notches and make sure they line up correctly with the corresponding notches in the CPU socket. Just make sure there's nothing on the underside of the CPU. Just place that gently into the socket. Just a gentle wiggle to make sure it's in. Lower down the retention bracket and hook the retention arm back under the clip. Okay, next thing you want to do is just make sure the surface of the replacement CPU is clean. Just giving that a quick wipe with a baby wipe, so that there was a little bit of residue on there. And should also make sure the base of your CPU cooler is clean as well. I'm also giving this an upgrade to a heat pipe cooler. Okay, when you're satisfied that the alcohol or whatever cleaning solution you've used has evaporated off, you should go ahead and place a small dot of thermal paste in the middle of the CPU. Looks like that's the end of my thermal paste. To reinstall the cooler, first place the far side onto its hinge mountings, and then you should try and lower the cooler down in one motion so as not to improperly spread the thermal paste. Doesn't always work, but you need to have a little bit of consideration that the screws for the cooler may not line up with the mountings on the first attempt, so a little bit of patience sometimes sorts the matter out, or sometimes you have to back off and start again. But once you get it down, it's just a matter of tightening up the 2 screws. Okay, got the cooler in first try this time. Once you've done that, what you need to do is go ahead and reinstall any cabling where it was before you started. Put the floppy drive back where it belongs. Pop these SATA cables into the available guides. Okay, final task. Got the machine plugged in. We'll just hit the power button and see if it still works and check it recognises the new CPU.